and this is our trigger case. High-risk preggy is a 15-year-old preemie at 28 weeks age of gestation who was brought to the emergency room due to severe headache with episodes of drilling of saliva and upward rolling of the eyeballs, and while in transit to the hospital, as reported by her mother. Her blood pressure upon arrival at the emergency room was 190 over 110 with no appreciable fetal heart tones. She suddenly went into cardiac arrest and was not able to be revived. So what happened to her? What was her death? Was her death prevented if she has had good prenatal checkup? So the goal for our presentation today is to prevent adverse maternal and perinatal outcomes among our pregnant patients. And our objectives are to identify high-risk pregnancy by recognizing factors that can result to poor maternal and perinatal outcomes, and to formulate a preemptive prenatal management plan for those who were identified to be high risk. So, what do you expect from this lecture? One is to realize the importance of identifying high risk pregnant patients in order to prevent maternal and perinatal morbidity and mortality. And this is at the level of a primary physician now that we are entering the universal healthcare system. Two is to identify them um, specifically through history taking and plan ahead to confirm our suspicion. What's next? Pag na-pick up na natin sila as having risk factors during history taking, anong next natin gagawin in order to confirm or as well as teenage pregnancy? Because among high risk pregnant women, risk factors um, to placenta elucidating anti-angiogenic factors like split1, which will be crossing the maternal compartment. These anti-angiogenic factors destroy the blood vessels, and as they cross the maternal compartment, they will be destroying systemic maternal vessels, and there will be hypertension and multi-organ hypoperfusion and damage. This is the reason why this is unique to pregnancy, because all of this are placenta induced. Everything is the pathophysiology comes from the placenta. So, why is it important to screen? Because it's important for you to understand that the pathophysiology of preeclampsia is a two-stage disorder. It happens first as an abnormal placentation, and this is the preclinical stage happening in the first to the early second trimester when the woman is still perfectly normal. The blood pressure is normal, there's no problem, but nagdi-develop na pala ng abnormality yung placenta. If this will be going unnoticed, it will lead to stage 2 disease. And this is the maternal syndrome, and this is the symptomatic stage. And this happens usually in the third trimester, starting 20 weeks age of gestation. And and if you try to screen these women, among these women who are still asymptomatic in the preclinical stage, can we do something in order to prevent the symptomatic stage? Yes. Screening of early detection of the disease is vital to prevent or alleviate adverse outcomes both for the mother and the fetus. So the questions are, among patients screened positive for preclinical disease, can we alter the course of the disease later in the course of pregnancy? Are there prophylactic management that we can offer to them to prevent or alleviate the complications of preeclampsia? The answer is a big yes, and this has been evidence-based by robust data conducted all throughout the years in universally. And this is by giving low dose aspirin and high dose calcium. They have been proven to arrest or alleviate the abnormal placentation, leading to severe outcomes both in the mother and the fetus. So, how do we do this? We first need to dig into the risk factors by doing our very detailed clinical history. And after we have picked them out as having risk factors, we will be doing our targeted examination, meaning hahanapin mo yung magpapatibay na ebidensya that this woman is indeed high risk to develop hypertensive disorders. And this is by computing the BMI and the mean arterial pressure. All these things will be detailed to you when you discuss in pathologic OB preeclampsia. And laboratory examinations such as the presence of proteinuria in urinalysis is also a very significant finding among those women who will be developing preeclampsia. And if you increase the suspicion based on your clinical history, the presence of risk factors, and positive findings in the PE and laboratory tests, you expect and you predict these women to develop adverse outcomes related to hypertensive disorders in pregnancy. So the moment you do that, at the level of the generalists, when the woman is still in the preclinical stage, we can do preemptive management. That is, we can monitor the woman, we can give low dose aspirin and high dose calcium, and we can even refer to the specialist, which is the obstetrician. This way, we can help prevent or alleviate adverse outcomes. So, these are the risk factors which unfortunately you need to memorize, or at least you have a código in the outpatient. All these things you will be fishing out from your patients, because yung pasyente hindi magbo-volunteer sa atin yan. So tayo magtatanong yan, and we will try to put in the record all those risk factors that will make the woman at risk to develop complications from high risk or from high hypertensive disorders of pregnancy. So that's all about hypertension. Let's now go to diabetes in pregnancy. As far as epidemiology is concerned, the prevalence of diabetes in pregnancy in women of Asian descent is 38%. And having our focus in the Philippines, the prevalence of GDM, or the pregnancy or the diabetes related to pregnancy, is 14%. Do you
Recording
know
stopped.
that the prevalence of diabetes among adults worldwide has increased by 40% in 10 years, and that it is estimated that incidence will increase by 165% in 2050? Do you also know that the increase is primarily due to type 2 diabetes, and this is due primarily to insulin resistance in the periphery, and this is due to obesity? And this is the reason why this condition, that the term diabesity, meaning diabetes secondary to obesity, has been coined. And again, you will um, be studying, or you will be having to learn this when you discuss about diabetes in pregnancy in your pathologic OB. As far as the population in the Philippines, 5% of the Philippine population are obese, and that 1 out of 5 of Filipinos are overweight. And this make us very, very prone to the development of diabetes. So why are pregnant women prone to the development of diabetes? Meaning, it is a common saying that pregnancy itself is diabetogenic. Again, the problem is the placenta, because the placenta produces all sorts of hormones that are diabetogenic because they are anti-insulin. They destroy the insulin at all levels, from production to its function in the periphery. And this will lead to hyperglycemia. So there will be increased blood sugar level in the pregnant woman, and hyperglycemia per se is the root cause of all maternal, fetal, neonatal, acute, and chronic complications. So this is the burden of the disease. Maternal complications of diabetes in pregnancy are all these things. Fetal complications can lead to congenital abnormalities because hyperglycemia itself is diabetogenic. It can also cause fetal death in utero, macrosomia or IUGR, and shoulder dystocia, and all these things. And long term, it can lead to type 2 DM in the next 20 years in 50 to 80% of women who were diagnosed to be diabetic during pregnancy. And this can also lead to obesity and diabetes among the offsprings. So this is the burden of the disease as far as the mother is concerned, and these are the things that can happen to the baby: macrosomia and all sorts of congenital abnormalities, as I've said, because hyperglycemia is by itself teratogenic. Long term complications: pregnancy uncovers the pre existing diabetes or induces one to become diabetic, meaning may tendency na siya na pabilis lang ng pregnancy because of the pregnancy hormones that are elucidated from the placenta, which are diabetogenic. Again, we said that 50 to 80% of women with history of GDM will develop type 2 diabetes later in their lives within the next 20 years. And this predisposes also the offspring to have obesity and diabetes later in their lives. So, diabetes in pregnancy is said to be sustained elevation of blood sugar levels or hyperglycemia during pregnancy, and again because of the placental hormones that are anti-insulin. And that the moment there is hyperglycemia, this will be the root cause of all maternal, fetal, neonatal, acute, and long-term complications. And therefore, the key to the prevention of all complications is early and appropriate control of blood sugar levels during pregnancy. And we can only attain this if we can be picking up women who are destined to be diabetic. And this is via early detection through screening. So, how do we screen diabetes in pregnancy? It is very, very important in our population, and this is in order to have early, adequate control of blood sugar levels. You know, pag ikaw ay Pilipino, kahit saan ka pa pinanganak at pinalaki, you are at risk. Nakatatak yan sa genome natin. And look at this risk factor number 6. If you are that of Asian American or a Pacific Islander, which we all belong, we have high risk. We are high risk to develop diabetes. So let's talk about the Filipino gravidas. Therefore, because of risk by race and ethnicity, we are all belonging to this population, and high incidence and prevalence of GDM among Filipino gravida patients. Do you know that among ASEAN countries, the incidence of gestational diabetes is highest in the Philippines? Therefore, every Filipino gravida is considered high risk, and therefore all Filipino pregnant patients should be screened in the first prenatal visit. It should be a mandatory universal screening for all our pregnant women. So how should we screen them? This is based on the POG-CPG on DM in pregnancy in 2019, and all pregnant women in the first in their first prenatal visit should undergo a 75-gram oral glucose tolerance test, which is consisting of uh, at least 8 to 14 hours of fasting and 1 hour and 2 hour post challenge after giving the 75-gram oral glucose. So, therefore, all Filipino gravidas are at risk for diabetes, whether they have the clinical history or not, because as we have said, based on ethnicity, we are all high risk. So, all of them should be screened for 75-gram glucose tolerance test. This should be universal. It should be mandatory for all our patients who are pregnant, and when they are positive, we are expecting all the adverse outcomes that we have described. Therefore, early detection and control of hyperglycemia by the 75-gram oral glucose tolerance test will help us prevent all these complications. So now let's go to the obesity as risk factor during pregnancy, and these are the expected complications. So these are the negative effects of maternal obesity for the mother, for the fetus, and for the offsprings. So knowing all these negative effects or expected perinatal and maternal outcomes, what should be our movement as a primary health physician during the universal health care program? So we should have anticipatory comprehensive plan. So we should compute for the BMI of our patient, knowing that increased BMI will be making them at risk to develop hypertension and diabetes, and therefore we should take care of their weight. And we have to do maternal and fetal monitoring. We have to counsel our patients very well on where they should be having their prenatal checks and where they should be delivering, not just in an ordinary hilot or what, because they are at high risk. They should be delivered in an institution wherein uh, they are prepared to take care of both of the mother and the fetus, and also the long-term advice regarding the expected outcomes for the mother and the fetus. What about teenage pregnancy? Teenage pregnancy is defined as a pregnant patient 16 years or younger. And this is the reasons, or these are the reasons why they are at high risk, because they don't care about themselves. They do not still have the maturity to realize the importance of the different complications of pregnancy in their bodies and their child. So they will be having inadequate prenatal care. And these are the other risk factors, they because of social deprivation, lower socioeconomic group, low educational achievement, having had teenage parents themselves, so they don't care about their children, getting pregnant at early age also, being the care of social services wherein they do not have their parents with them, poor transition from school to work, they need to work for their subsistence, and most of them are got pregnant because of sexual abuse. So these are the unfortunate events that can lead to teenage pregnancy. And look at the complications. So you see all of these complications: antepartum hemorrhage, preeclampsia, anemia, dystocia, intrauterine growth restriction, and death, cesarean section, are consistently higher among our population who are teenage pregnant. So all of this we should put in mind, and we should tell the patient, especially if the mother is there, and make them realize that this particular patients are at high risk to develop complications. Therefore, our anticipatory comprehensive plan, we need to do very careful and significant counseling of the possible expected complications as we have seen here, advise on more responsible lifestyle changes to prevent this complication, and we need to monitor both the mother and the baby for onsetting complications, and long-term advice for the outcomes of maternal and fetal conditions. So therefore, summing up, antenatal care is very important, and this is the care that a woman receives throughout pregnancy, and this should ensure that the mother and her newborn will survive pregnancy and childbirth in good health. So, our responsibility to ensure the health and safety of both the mother and her baby through conscientious and responsible delivery of prenatal care and timely referral. This starts at history taking during the first prenatal consult, when we ourselves, the caretakers of these women, fish out for important information which will give us clues that she and or her baby may be at risk anytime before, during, and even after delivery. So knowing all these factors, we may predict what are the conditions that may happen to them at any course in pregnancy, and we will be doing targeted physical examination and laboratory requests in order to strengthen our suspicion. And that, knowing all these things, we now institute preemptive and prophylactic management strategies in order to prevent or alleviate adverse maternal and or perinatal outcome. And our great responsibility is that no baby's life should be in danger nor wasted, nor any woman must die while giving life because of improper nor inadequate delivery of healthcare services to the patient. So, our trigger case, what happened to her? So, high risk, a teenage pregnant woman, a patient who had who unfortunately died because of the complication of her pregnancy. So what happened to her? She had maternal death, and her death was directly related to pregnancy because what she had was pregnancy-induced hypertension, preeclampsia progressing to eclampsia with cardiac complication, ending up to death. So, was this a pregnancy related preventable death if she had good prenatal care? The answer is a big yes, because based on the pathophysiology of the disease, which we have explained, all are coming from the placenta. That's why preeclampsia and eclampsia is unique to pregnancy. And screening is possible because this is a slowly and continuously evolving disease. And that if we see our patient and we predicted the patient to be developing this later in the course of pregnancy because of our risk factors, our PE, MAP, etc., and laboratories, urinalysis of proteinuria, prophylactic strategies are available like low dose aspirin and high dose calcium, which are all evidence based to alleviate and prevent the morbid complications of the disease. So I think this is my last slide. Thank you so much for listening.